Thank you for joining us again on the Smoke Sessions. This is your boy, Brother Jam.
Brother Los.
Brother Run.
And Smoke. I'm sorry, I said Smoke Session. I'm too used to doing the other side.
Y'all run together. Y'all run together.
Okay, we have a good night before with good people, and he think his show is the most important one. Fuck the rest of y'all. Smoke Session. Fuck the live, the TJAP session.
This is how egos begin.
But it wasn't. I told the interview.
That was a pretty good show. I'm looking forward to that airing. I'm looking forward to that episode airing, man. I think it's gonna be. I think people are really gonna enjoy it. If y'all haven't had a chance yet to check out the Smoke Sessions, please do that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. Well, it's the day of the smoke, so you know the time. Always 7 p.m. Central Time, no matter what day of the week it is. We got you covered. So just please check those out. And we talk about some interesting things. We got an independent comic book company coming up. Called Bleak Haven.
Bleak Haven, yeah.
Yeah, man, those guys are really building an incredible world, and the conversation that we got to have a chance to have with them was really good.
I was so impressed, man.
I mean, those are some really smart guys.
Absolutely.
Those are some really intelligent guys. They put some thought and some real energy into their writing, and I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I was saying, just for that alone, go check them out. You know, hey, like us, they're trying to make it. Go check them out. And you might like what they do. But
you know what I really want to know? You reached out to them through Stand Beside. You reached out to them, and they responded. And we have like a lot of commonality. You know, we started from the ground up or what have you. And when the brothers responded to us, they was very eager to be on our platform. Like, we was eager to talk to them. And it was a hell of an episode, man. I can't wait, man. I cannot wait for it to air.
It's going to be awesome.
That's so much so that even the way that they met, Stanley was the same way we met. It was like we were supposed to meet at some point or another. You know? So I went on and I saw comic book. I'm like, wait, for the sessions, right? And you know, boom, we already made contact.
That's what's up, man.
So that shit worked.
It was beautiful, man.
Hey, man, I know we have a special guest with us today. But before we go into her tour session, I gotta ask y'all something.
Okay.
Have you all been watching what's going on in terms of geopolitics?
Honestly, I haven't been keeping up with it. I know there's something going on with like China and.
We finna go to war, man.
You think so?
We finna go to war.
Is it?
We finna go to war, man.
Has it gotten that serious?
We finna go to war, man.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be aggressive, but nobody's talking about what's going on in the South China Sea. China has surrounded Taiwan.
That's our shit. We want it back. Fuck y'all independent shit. It's my shit.
It's the same Ukrainian situation, except it's on water. But it's the same situation.
So they completely surrounded the whole island.
They have surrounded the island. At first, about 8 months ago, for all of our viewers on the Daily Smoke, if you've been paying attention to this over about the last year, I guarantee you're going to see an episode where I said, hey man, Australia started saying we're going to have problems out of some military exercise going on in the South China Sea. We think we might have a problem. Okay, this is a 60 minutes version of Australia. You remember, don't you? At that time, brother, I promise you, John, I said, hey man, I need people to pay attention because I don't think we're taking this serious, right? Okay, let's fast forward 8 months later. Here they are surrounding Taiwan. At first they said maybe military exercises, maybe war games. But now they already know we're right off the damn coast of Shanghai. Right. So if you know that and you're pulling this move, I think they're about to make a move, man. And that's going to be a real problem.
They could be surrounded and make sure we don't go fuck with it. You know, we're fucking over here. We're in bed over here, you know, we really want to fight Russia, but all our shit.
Yeah, Ukraine is a proxy war.
It's a proxy war, no doubt about it.
It is a proxy
It is.
war.
Ukraine is a proxy war.
If they want to be out
I agree.
here,
I agree.
surround us, but you're not messing with this. This is mine.
So
you're not going to let you get no backup or support.
Right. So if you want it, you got to fight me and get to it.
I agree.
You know, so they're always scared.
You can always hide in a proxy war. We know what the truth is,
Right.
but you can always hide. However, it's almost like to your point, Brother Los. If somebody right now bombs Ontario, Canada, Washington is going to respond.
Right.
Not because we love Canada so much, you're too close.
Yeah.
That's the issue, right?
Close right there.
Right,
You almost hit Detroit, goddamn.
We have defended right? So we have defended Taiwan since day one. And you motherfuckers gonna surround Taiwan? That's like saying what you gonna do next.
Right. If you want
And we can't
Taiwan,
hear
you
me.
have to fight.
Like if you know the history of Taiwan and China, the proper answer is, well, it is yours.
Right.
That's the proper answer.
Right. We waited for a little bit.
That is the proper answer. Like we study history, like we do. That is yours. I don't blame you. I fight the rules. Mine. It would be no different if the Native Americans said, "Hey man, we're going to take back Washington, Idaho, Dakota, North, South Dakota, all that shit, whatever. We're going to get all that back." And in reality, it belongs to them. We're not going to confound the issue. Taiwan has been protected by us easily since the Vietnam War. If they move on Taiwan, we do nothing. That's open season.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So it's not so much that in principle we agree with Taiwan. It's how does that make me look?
Right.
This is a problem.
That could also be important to see that because of what you're saying, I gotta get off this shit pretty much.
Exactly.
Backing up his ally.
If
You know
we-
what? I'll get to the niggas.
Exactly.
Act like they're gonna fight me because you know we all get into it. We're done.
Exactly.
So maybe they'll lose for that shit over here because they need the. You done put in the news that you done ran out of goddamn stairs.
Exactly.
What?
What?
That shit.
You know what I mean?
Now,
Exactly.
Here, guess what? Taiwan will be mine completely.
Because if we set aside and give them Taiwan or don't involve ourselves with that, you do realize the Ukrainian war just got on steroids.
Yeah.
It's the same shit.
Right.
Right.
That's what we're not paying attention to. I'm sorry, I ain't trying to take the time.
No.
But this has been on my mind. This is important, y'all. This may be a prelude to
We have to
something.
do something about that. Maybe a show, not to.
I'm down.
A special show.
Yeah.
Breaking news.
As a side consequence, that could be the thing that finally makes China and Russia go for ally. And if that happens, that's going to turn into a bad situation.
John, I knew that was a problem when they had the Winter Olympics in China, and Putin was sitting next to President Xi, and they were having a good conversation and said, our alliance is reinforced. Because I knew then you was using Putin as a pretext to move on Taiwan. Because Putin's perspective towards the Ukraine is identical to Xi and China's perspective towards Taiwan. It's the same shit.
Now that you went in and America's deployed the shit over
What
there,
now?
I'll get them up off you.
What now? You know what I mean? We can float that shit
You
too.
know that if they fuck with me, then it's
Oh, we got each other's back. Cool.
You know,
Exactly.
If we got each other's back, and if we have to,
I'm gonna tell you what really scared, man. I'm gonna tell you what really scared. WION, the World is One News, based out of New Delhi, India. They said, hey y'all, I think Russia for real. Because about 9 days ago, Russia said, y'all know that supersonic missile we've been working on? Yeah. We're gonna deploy that shit about 100 miles off the coast of the United Kingdom.
they did a radar one.
And if
That's
you-
the first.
People were like, what the fuck is that gonna do? You see exactly what it's gonna do. It's gonna send a radioactive tsunami that is going to cover the entire United Kingdom.
Right. It'll shut us
So we
down.
don't have to bomb you directly. We'll let nature work for us. With our weapons. Now we have your attention.
Right. Yeah, they just fired for the first time a laser guided something. They fired into a building. Just recently, I thought I saw something in Russia. And it showed in Ukraine that, but I can't remember what it was. Some type of laser guided missile was the first time one of those had been. So I don't know. I have to look at another episode about.
You know what scares me about this? And I know we got to get to our guests. Our guests have been so patient with us. And I'm sorry, my love. Tiffany, thank you so much. I promise you, just give us one more minute. I promise. This is what scares me. The pretext for World War III is being set. Because if you look at World War II, that's how it happened. There was already a problem in Europe. We didn't get involved until Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. But there was already a war.
That's the same thing. Like Japan, we're busy over here. We're gonna take some shit.
Exactly. Look at how it's like history is repeating.
And now China, and we're trying to stay out of it. And it always starts in Europe.
It always starts in Europe, doesn't it?
That about, you know what? Because that's all
There we
they
go.
did back in the days and shit. That's all they ever did.
Here we go.
So
There we
that's gonna
go.
be war all the time.
That's where it starts
War
again.
land.
That's where it starts again.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. You know, before we are going,
Absolutely.
don't forget to go to our website, www.dailysmoke.com, THADailySmoke.com, where you'll find everything about us and how you get on, how to be a guest, how to come be a guest audience, how to come and have an experience with us. And then don't forget donations. Cash App is $TD Smoke. And again, even if you just watch, hit the like button and share, that's enough. But we do need anything that helps us better this platform for your benefit. Remember, this people's podcast is all about you. So,
And to that end, man, I'm pleased to present. I'm so pleased to present our guest today. I'm gonna give it to Jonathan. Jonathan is our guest's biggest fan. Tiffany Scales, can you hear his love?
I can.
I want you to know Jonathan is your biggest fan on the planet. So I'm going to give him the honor of introducing you. You have the floor, my brother.
Okay, well, first of all, how are you, Tiffany?
I'm grateful. I'm grateful.
A chance to talk to you. Like I said earlier, I wish you could be here in person, but I do understand, obviously. But at the same time, I wanted to take a moment before we got into everything else, and I wanted to tell you thank you. You don't know this, okay? But you were with me in a moment that I had a few weeks back with my daughter. And I know if you remember from the Nessa's event, you told me to breathe, and that stuck with me. And my youngest daughter started her first job, and I went to go drop her off for the first day. And I'm just going to breeze through this, but after everything was said and done, I'm driving home, and I'm here, and I'm just feeling all the fatherly emotions and everything, swelling up. And my initial reaction was to do what I always do, which was when those tears started welling up, to try to shut it down. But I heard your voice tell me to breathe, and I did it, and I just let it hit me, however it hit me. And those emotions came pouring out. I literally cried the entire ride home. But when by the time I got home, I felt so much better. So I just wanted to tell you that your voice stuck with me, and I needed that voice in that moment. So thank you for that.
Thank you for telling. You're most welcome. You're most welcome.
I guess it's an incredibly talented person, incredibly gifted person. So I'm so glad to have Miss Tiffany Scales on.
Absolutely. Welcome, Tiffany. Welcome. Thank you so much for honoring us with your rest. You have the floor, Shaq. On you,
Okay,
Tiffany.
just roll for me. 1, 2, 3. Take a deep breath in. And slowly exhale. Being remembered, I find to be one of the greatest privileges we have. thoughts are fleeting so swiftly that people assume they'll be remembered, especially like if you go to the same restaurant every week, but the people that work there don't remember you or seem to show you a separation of attention. It's not because you're not significant, it's just there's so many other faces. So when there are moments where people exchange energies and gifts and they recall something, they actually like take something in, that is so beautiful. You can't really get too far complimenting a poetic communicator because it's impossible for me to just continue with my thoughts when I was completely surprised by that truth you shared. Like, thank you so much for telling me that. I gotta tell y'all, I don't know if you can see my face, but when you said, you know, the regular fatherly emotions and the gentlemen in the background were like, yeah, I was like, what are those? I've never heard that story. I've never heard that perspective, but I would love to. I would love to know what a father feels when his child screams for him when they close the door of the daycare or the kindergarten room. I would love to know how it feels for a father when their baby girl doesn't look over her shoulder to wave for the third time when he drops her off down the corner. Like, I want to know what that feels like because I've only heard the mother's perspectives, and those are the people who actually wanted their kids, right? But like, we've only been subjected to what we've consumed, and I just stopped swallowing everything I heard. Um, but guys, like what you're doing with this podcast, it is so imperative because people got things to say and people need to hear it, but don't have access all the time to get to the spaces or the stages or the events, right? So documenting this, digitizing this conversation, digitizing the connection of how we met, what I do, and how great my gifts are, as opposed to waiting for someone to discover it or me continuing to invest in empty wells of marketing schemes. Like, I'm truly grateful and I'm so happy to tell other people to support what you're doing because the tools to do this are not cheap. But I really do. I thank each of you. Thank you for setting aside time today, even though you do this on a certain night of the week. I appreciate all of you for your time in this moment and for working around with me to make sure I could be a part of your beautiful production. Like, thank you.
Oh, no, about you,
It's all about you,
like you said, and like I always say, you know, even if you got something to say and no one's listening, come to us. Get it off your chest. You know what I'm saying? Get it off your chest.
fingers just now.
Man, that been look like for real. I ain't even gonna lie. Before I've been looking at your flyer like every day since we met at Danessa's event. Oh, I love her. I have it sitting by my Bible, and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with them, but I'm gonna do something. And then not even a week later, I got invited to your podcast, and I'm just like, oh, look at the joy. And I've been, I believe, and so I stay in prayer. And my prayers are not requests; they're declarations of my appreciation and my praise for the things that I know are coming. Like, because of the good and faithful servants, because of the people who have experienced reasons not to believe and they chose to. Like, even, you know, with the current events and the taboo topics, like, people base their logic on the access they have to understanding that sometimes the truths put in books were not printed. But too often people allow themselves to only see things from one dimension and not consider what part they play. Like, in relationships, if you were to think about World War II or World War III and pertaining to moments where you and your spouse or you and your family were at odds, those are the most incredible moments to apply a 3 and 7 deep breath, because you have to remember who's on the side with you. You know, and then whatever mountainous obstacle arise, like, you know you can overcome it because no weapon formed against you will prosper, and this too shall pass. And if you choose to continue, you can just breathe through this, you know, as opposed to taking away touch and taking away the words affirming this relationship and taking away the service or the kindness or any of the languages in which you would share your love and express it. It's not the step to take to be effective, to revoke love in situations where you feel oppressed or aggressive, you know. I think some people refer to individuals who know where to go to get to feel better. They call them energy leeches.
Agreed.
But in all honesty, what homeless person doesn't know where to go to get a plate?
Right.
I mean, like when you're operating in service, you don't see it as someone coming to take. It's more so, thank you that I'm in position to give, and then in giving, you're in position to receive.
You are so beautiful. Oh my God.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Comment on what you had said about the dad's perspective of the daughter. Hey, if you want us to come on your platform and talk about that, let us know.
Okay.
When you mentioned how, you think of the relationships in, like, say, World War II or World War III, I think about that because I've spoken to my wife about that, saying, look, that was something that happened. First and foremost, Houston is gone. So we got to get the hell out of here. My only main thought is I'm trying to get to dine to my daughter.
Yes.
I can't be away from her if something's going to happen. So it hits me right now just thinking about it. Like,
Wait, let me ask you a question. I know I can't see you. I know I can't see you, but the fear does not exist. The fear does not exist. When she is not in your presence, she is covered. So there is no fear. And on the other side of what you thought you were afraid of, there is freedom. Because the whole access of how she became her, of all the little tadpoles that could have been something different, right? Like your child was selected. And at the same time, the whole gestation period of you and your intentions of this life that you helped create, like the intentions for greatness, all of those promises, all of those spoken words, like they weren't forgotten. And so no matter what the storm is that we're experiencing, don't speak what you don't want. Just acclaim what you know because you've continuously said it. Like anything you need to do, you will do for her. So there is no fear of failure. There is no fear of being inadequate. There's no fear of what if you're not in the room. She will always be okay.
Tiffany, you know why I love hearing you speak?
Why?
You remind me of the Oracle of Delphi.
Oh wow!
I've been called that before, to be honest.
No, it's real.
Right. No.
Like the Oracle of Delphi, like you understand these women, these three women, at least that's what they were ordered. That's where all the smart people would go, the barbarians, the fighters, whatever you were. They want to know, where do we go from here? Because they get exhausted our own intelligence. So when they go to the oracles of Delphi, they would talk to them in a manner where, okay, this is the path. When you watch 300, what do you think was going on when the lady laid down? And Leonidas is sitting there listening, looking at her while she goes through these physical gyrations. She's talking to him. Tiffany is an oracle and Delphi. There's nothing hard about it. This brother here started coming to tears when she was talking during the next event. Here you are, brother. She's speaking to you. And we had to shut up because she's talking to you.
I hear it. I hear exactly what she's saying.
I really respect everything about you. That's why I couldn't wait for her to be on the show.
Like I said, I hear what she's saying.
She's absolutely correct.
Telling me and all that. It's just as a dad, that's where you can't understand. And
here she wants to walk into it.
Man, I like, you know what? In all honesty, so people, a lot of people, I ain't gonna say the three of y'all, a lot of people believe their words are insufficient, so they just keep them here. But in 1 minute of silence, I have so many thoughts. I can only imagine what quiet parts of people's days feel like. But I promise you, thank you is heavy enough. I love you is sufficient. And if you were to tell the people in your life what they truly mean to you and not what you thought it meant when they did what you didn't want them to, like not those things. But when you acknowledge what they mean to you, like your presence, seeing your face today, like what that means, you have to tell them.
They know.
But in the communication, darling, you can't tell them in the language you only speak. Like paint the picture, the quality time, the words of affirmation. Like if you're a father, if you hear me, record your voice because that is a tone. Like you want to know how effective ASMR therapy is? Like record your voices.
I love ASMR. That's what puts me to sleep every damn night.
Yeah.
ASMR knocks me the fuck out.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear.
Oh, you'd be surprised, dude. You'd be surprised, dude. You'd be surprised.
But I understand what you're saying because I do speak to my daughters in a certain tone. They know how much they mean to me. I always let them know that they're more important to me than anything. I would do whatever it takes to take care of them without any fear at all. If I give my life for one of them, I'll do it. As much as I want to be immortal and never die, I will give them my life if I have to. So, like I said, I don't have the fear of that. It's just as a dad, that's my baby girl. I just can't see me not being away from her if something was to happen.
It's that feeling of helplessness.
Right.
Because one of the things that you, at least for me, I'll say, that you experience when you're talking about fatherhood is and I think this might be true for a lot of men too. For us, actions equate love. You know what I mean? So we show a lot of our affection and a lot of our emotion through the actions we take. We provide for families because we love them, not because we, you know what I mean? Plenty of dudes have children and just walk away. You have a sense of obligation and responsibility because you care. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, as a father in that kind of situation where you say World War III breaks out, something crazy is going on in the world. Yeah, it's not so much like for my children. I know that they could probably handle themselves, whatever the situation is. I mean, heaven forbid, you just happen to be where a bomb blows up, something like that. Okay, there's nothing that can be done. But if there's something crazy going on, I figure you can handle yourself. But at the same time, I'm going to want to get you. I'm going to want to talk to you. I'm going to want to make sure you're safe. And until I know that, there's a sense of helplessness that is because you can't protect them from everything that's going on. There's a sense of there's just this feeling of frustration and then the helplessness of not being able to put your hands around them and protect them.
But at the same time, you know they're going to take care of them.
Of course. But it's like I was saying last night. My daughter went to prom. And
congratulations.
I'll show y'all the picture. She's so beautiful, man.
Give her a shout out. Like I said.
No. Anyway. But she went to prom, and that whole situation. Of course, I'm happy for her. She looked beautiful in her dress and everything. But at the same time, as a father, and the minute I drop her off, I'm worried until she's back in the house. And it's not that I don't think she can handle herself. She's got her phone, she got money, whatever comes up, she's good. But I know the possibilities of what's out there in the world, and you feel a sense of helplessness when it comes to being able to just protect her because you've done it for so long.
So imagine that they live here with me. I gotta go to Detroit to find them.
Exactly.
That's a long way to go just to get them.
You can be like
helplessness is a deeper life. Man, I hope I can get to her before. My thought is, I don't want to know that shit happened. I'm alive, but I can't find out if she is or not. Because we're not going to know what's going on. That's what's going on.
Okay, so your tongue, right? Like I wasn't going to interject because I'm really enjoying your talking, but be mindful of your tongue. That's that shit that's gonna no. We don't speak that. Like when and I say this with the utmost respect. Telling people I don't know, watch your mouth. Like that might sound a little too aggressive, but watch your mouth. If you were to be intentional before you speak,
you can always be yourself. You can always be yourself on the platform. So don't hold yourself on. Don't hold yourself back on.
I want to make sure that nobody is uncomfortable. I'm intentional with that. But so for me, I started doing a mantra. Cayenne Nebula is a healer, a holistic healer here in Houston. She's from New Orleans, and I remember probably 10 years ago she told me to dip my tongue in honey before I would get on the mic, because if I was feeling some kind of way, I talked about it. And I was like, I don't want to talk about things that are like upsetting. Like I want to, just do the sweet stuff. And so she told me to dip my tongue in honey. And like I found myself a few months ago repeating a mantra. My tongue is dipped in honey. Everything I speak is sweet. My energy can only be matched or increased. And in all honesty, it puts you in a place of conviction of, hold on now, be impeccable with your words. They be the agreements to follow, to not assume anything. And of course, we have been shown ugly things on TV, in action, at home behind closed doors, at work, in the grocery store. Like we have been shown ugly. However, ugly is what we call it. The conditioning experiences of us developing our emotional intelligence and strength to maintain peace and faith, if you believe, it is. If you stand on the conviction of your faith, it does not matter how it looks because you wrote your vision and made it plain so your view won't spook you. But be mindful of how you use your tongue because it has the power of life and death, and you'll speak things that never had to be experienced until you add it on to the equation of existence. But if you allow yourself not to be quiet, never silenced, but just be mindful because he does not speak to us with question marks. So there is no uncertainty. It is in the declaration of statements that I know this. Maybe I can't explain it. You understand? But there's a knowing.
You're making perfect sense. I'm listening.
Yeah.
You're making perfect sense. You are making perfect sense. I'm listening.
No, it's
like I said, for me, I'm always mindful of my tongue. I don't tell my dogs.
But you just said it, baby. And that's the thing. It's the knowing.
I understand what you're saying. That
Yeah.
the little ones are going to see the other ones. She may see it, but she understands though that that's how I feel anyway. She
Yeah.
knows that I will do whatever it takes to get to her, to save her, to do whatever I have to do. She knows this, so she's not worried about that. She's more worried that I will get hurt trying to help her. So that's what she would be. But believe me, I feel everything you're saying. I know where you're coming from. Been around a long time. I've done a lot of different shit, so I know what the hell how to handle myself.
You understand what the conversation is right now. This is real talk. Do you all understand what the conversation is? The conversation is not how well you can protect those you love. That's not the conversation. The conversation is not how well they're able to survive in your absence. That's not the conversation. The conversation she's bringing to the point is, what reality are you speaking into existence versus what reality there is? And who's going to win? That's the question. Tiffany, stop me from lying.
You know?
That's the question. Because you do understand, if we're going to have this conversation, let's talk real. If you're going to have this conversation, let's make sure we understand. The person that wins the war is not the person that's stronger in and of themselves. The question is, do you have that strong of a conviction that you're going to win? Her question is, what you're speaking, do you have just as much of a conviction towards what you're talking about versus the conviction of those that are opposite of you? Because that's what's going to determine whether we self-annihilate or we go forward. This is real.
Bro, I got so many poems. I got so many poems. Okay, y'all listen, like counted steps preceded by hesitation led to mental constipation, right? Like literally when you try to figure out where to go, how to get there, how long it will take, you forget about the brakes in front of you that you have to slow down for, or the acceleration and energy you have to exert to get there. Like if you count your steps and you proceed that with hesitation, like you just gonna be completely constipated here, backed up, can't even express yourself. But the patience that is faced, like it is not just a virtue. That's a fragment. It's your mission to attain patience. And you're either going to do that by invoking the steps to be patient or to experience waiting, period. Like the reality, thank you so much for the translation, because the reality you choose, they say perception is reality, but how realistic is your perspective if your view is skewed by your point of view? No one is going to debate the correctness of what you say. But a teacher will tap you and say, hold on now, do it like this, and watch how smooth it goes. But some people like the bumpy roads, they like to go off course, and that's okay, because if they come back, they get to tell a story of a whole different way that didn't get them anywhere, but they still had a way to go.
Agreed.
But no argument.
Do you remember from my Mother's Day show, Rachel, I think her name was?
Yes.
Um,
No, Rachel.
yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. And she was talking about how you just have to change your mindset. And this is like a higher level of what she was describing that, or what she was attempting to describe that night. Because I get what she was saying, but this is like the root of it. This is the base of that pyramid, basically, where we get down to what we're really talking about. So this is after having that conversation on Monday night, it's interesting to have this conversation tonight. It's like the evolution of it. So
It's the path you're on, though. It's the path you're on. If you don't have clarity, you don't have to admit not knowing or understanding. Like, it'll come again because you're attracting that.
You know what pisses me off about this whole conversation we're having right now?
What?
Be here right now.
Not only can she not be here right now, not only that, I had so many other questions, but I'm not
Ask.
interested.
No. Well, this can be something that we do again, right? Like,
I had so many other questions. That would be so selfish. But this is beautiful. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I mean, if you want to ask questions,
Just
ask. I would love to know the questions that you put together. Like, I mean,
Keep going, man. You're not gonna lower the bar.
hold on now, wait. Let me show you. Ask me the third question.
I'm straight. I'm straight.
Nuh-uh. See, I just said it, y'all. Remember, some people, I ain't gonna say that one of y'all, but some people think their words are inadequate. That's not true. I want to know what you came up with.
What do you mean? That's all I'm saying.
Ask me the question.
All right. Me. Not me.
I'm not gonna say it's me because if I said something, what I want to say, whether you think it's inadequate or not, that's what I am. It's just
Holding your truth, no doubt.
and that's my truth. So, that's what I'm saying. So, if somebody might see it a different way, but like I said, I'm too old to. I've been through a lot of shit that I know what I feel and how I think about things. You're not changing.
Let me tell you how I know Tiffany is a master psychologist.
You know?
She has evoked more reactions from us as the guest than we expected to evoke from her as the guest on this platform. It's beautiful.
I expected this to go exactly like it's going. I knew this was going to be exactly like it's going. I love it. This is great.
I would like to know.
People do watch this episode.
They will. They will. Let me make sure. They will. Tiffany, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
What set you on this path, and how long have you been on it?
So I went through about 5 different routes of which path, what you mean, what level, how are we, but then we weren't going to lower the bar. And then I heard someone say, we're going to let it go. So I've been on this path since the beginning of my time here. My grandmother used to call me, she used to call me something that referred to me in the sense of like having premonitions. And we would talk quietly under trees outside, and literally I would tell her how things go, and we would just keep our secrets of the ways in which I would expose her to my truth. Throughout my schooling, I was published at the age of 5 in a Young Authors Conference in Alabama. I went to DC in 2019 reluctantly. I was going to do a Why Aren't You Here, Daddy poem, but I read the room, and it was filled with white-headed men who looked like they had experienced war. And so I pulled out a poem that I wrote in place of an essay in 4th grade. Now here I am at 19, reading something so relevant to them, depicting what it's like for someone to go fight for people who will never know their name or claim it, to be great, and to come home and not be received or even applauded, like no acknowledgement of the detriment they faced. I have so much respect for people who wear uniforms every day, those in green, those in blue, those in red, because I know what it is to let them see your cape and assume you must do this well, as opposed to knowing how hard it is to never be able to take off the one on your face. And when you were subjected to hate, it is something so deafening of a silence, but letting people know how it feels, like literally painting them a picture, I feel is so necessary. Otherwise, we continue the cycle of going through the same thing. And oh yeah, Me Too's, I know what that is. That happens when like nobody needs that anymore. And so the ways in which we allow ourselves to explore life and speak in such a way, I am continuously on this path. So there's no, oh, I started writing when I was 14. And no, those are not my stories. But I've been on this path with knowledge of what I was doing probably for the last 6 months. I've been an extemporaneous poet, freestyle queen, writer on poetry stages, but not in a way that has ever been marketed or said to be like the greatest. Because though they call me a goat, I don't seek that type of accolade. I just want them to be open to receive it because the hearts that hurt in my presence, I feel it's a disservice not to heal them before I leave. And so this path, this continuation, it's not until you give that you're open to receive, right? But when you are open to receive and give, then you are understanding you are deserving of the intentions of being experienced by you too. And if you know it feels so good to love somebody, then you gotta realize you deserve to feel that too. And the love that you give somebody, you gotta understand you deserve that too. In the same sense with respect, understanding, with forgiveness, with grace, with space. And in doing these things, you're able to have conversations with people who weren't raised like you, who weren't taught like you, who don't look like you, live like you, eat like you, but they too have perspective. And when you allow them at the table, you get this beautiful view. It's just, it makes you see the Last Supper differently. It's not, people sitting amongst liars, thieves, and whores. It's more so like, look at them eagerly grateful to pass bread. I mean, like, we have to give thanks for the smallest of things because we are already living in abundance. And it's not because we have the capital or cash in our pockets. It's the fact that we got something so valuable. Can't nobody do what I do, honey. And in this recording, let it be great. But at the same time, the exchange, because you opened your space to welcome me and my small thoughts of my gift, I know the big of yours. And so again, I'm thankful. I'm so grateful. I will tell everybody about Daily Smoke and all the things y'all have going on because I'm just like, I feel at home. Because I am. Like, it's amazing. Thank you.
Everything we do, everyone comes here, everybody that comes on,
Yeah.
we make sure to tell you you say whatever the fuck you want to say. We don't care. I mean, if you're on some dumb shit, yes, now we got a problem. But other than that, if you feel this way,
Well, I'm gonna call Ron out though. I'm gonna call Ron out because like I was excited. Like you put together questions. What are the questions? I promise you, I will answer them.
All right. Next question. So, how long have you been performing publicly?
20 years. I celebrated my 20th anniversary on April 16th. My first. How is that what? How is that what?
Go ahead.
20 years.
20 years.
20 years. I started performing like in groups at TSU my freshman year. Shout out to Mom and Dad.
Did you study under Dr. Friedman? Oh, sorry. Did you study under Dr. Friedman?
Actually, I didn't take his classes, but I sure did see him often. He was so sweet.
You're performing publicly. How has that affected you in terms of your personality?
Well, sadly, some people thought or believe that I speak in riddles and it's confusing and they wish I would just keep it simple. I never even thought about trying to apply brevity until I realized people's attention spans were really small and the fear of explaining they didn't understand what a word meant or what the intent was. I've mastered keeping it simple to the best of my ability. And if there's silence or it's awkward, I'm like, okay, let me just break it down another level. Not to lower my bar, but to make sure you can catch the swing, right? But like as far as my openness, I am so shy. I'm shy. I'm shy. I'm completely insecure. I feel so many things, and these are the statements that my spirit says, But due to and experience of insecurities, I allowed myself to silence myself in spaces that I felt this would not be received well because I speak in riddles and prose, but the tone that I heard them set in was like a problem. And it made me feel like, well, I took it as I was supposed to be quiet. But no longer do I concern myself with the discomfort of small talk and how's Bob or Joe. Like we gonna flow, it's gonna go, and we gonna have a good time. And so my personality, I've grown a lot. The pandemic grew me extensively, unapologetically. Like my mirror time is a lot more intentional, a lot more thorough. My deep breaths are a lot more consistent, and just the reflection, like people sharing. I can hear you tell me to take a deep breath, and I do. Apple needs to give me a sponsorship because if your watch can tell when someone needs to breathe because their pulse is lower, like let my audio come through, take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. Like I'm just saying, shout that out. Apple needs to partner with the Wordmatician because I promise you, I sell you some watches for real.
Hey,
But
Instead of Siri, Tiffany.
Tiffany, want to talk to you on a deep. Tiffany, want to have a conversation with you on a deeper level.
Okay.
I hope you hear me.
Okay.
Most of the paradigmatic individuals that have lived throughout civilization were very misunderstood by the masses, including their own students. How do you deal with that?
I accept the things I cannot change. So it's always fun when I think about foreshadow and how everything that I have written was because I wasn't blind to it. But in hindsight, I can see how the word still applies. For people who follow practices of faith and need that systemic religious process, it is a basis of their discipline. It's what they convict themselves with. But at the same time, the freedom of spirituality and the ways in which people experience different processes and steps, I can still see how they get to the same point. The peace, the love, the openness, right? For me, when I think about ignorance and stupidity, I'm not ashamed. I'm not frustrated with someone who does not know. What's difficult is knowing and accepting. Just because I know doesn't mean I'm supposed to stay. So I only submit when I'm tugged. And sometimes it comes easy, like somebody will say, I think you have something for me, complete stranger, I don't know you. I'll give it to you though. And there's essences where tones will change and you can hear spirit through someone else's voice, literally telling you it's okay to elevate this group and allow them to see that it is not a use of, I'm drinking water, y'all. Like I do smoke. I do enjoy, burning incense because I like aromatherapy, but there are so many things that you can do to get you to a space where the quieting of your thoughts is possible without keeping you stuck, and the breathing. The breathing is so powerful. Like, I mean, if your child has ADHD, some type of issue with stress, depression, uneasiness, anxiety, if y'all get excited and keep thinking it's bad, like, take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. It has completely been what I say every time I get on the mic for the last 20 years. I tell my clients, I coach couples, I help people stay married. Literally, it's the breathing. And if you think about it, when someone honks at you, when someone cuts you off in traffic, well, that's a perspective. They just get to their destination and you were just in the way. But, we personalize a lot. Another agreement is don't take it personal. One thing about me, y'all, I do not like to read, but I love conversing with folks who do because some things I take note, like the 4 agreements, be impeccable with your words, always do your best, never take it personal, and don't assume. Like, those are great tools. At the same time, I had to understand that even though I was given life in real time, sometimes the words needed to be written on the walls because some people don't hear very well, but they can read it. And some people need to see it. Some people need to feel it. And so over time, I have learned how I am a healing center, how a hug from me, you can feel your heart fill, And so when there's moments where it's rejection, people may not even have chosen, but they play this role of antagonist or conflict or opposition. They're not the most comfortable situations, but I accept what I cannot change. And I even give some space to offer an adaptation to the adjustment, but it's not my business if you don't get it. But I did learn to document because somebody who's not in this room would miss this, but ooh, they didn't. Like I was telling Ron before y'all called, I was praying about this, and I'm just like so grateful for what y'all go through for us to be able to have this conversation. And I was so appreciative of my device to record the prayer. I sent it to your email. And at the same time, this recording because somebody on Facebook may see it, but we cannot depend on the algorithm. And so having it in real time and just saying, hey, go to the website because y'all put time into creating it, like the funnels and the channels, the word of mouth, there's so many things. There's too much of a, this is how you do this effectively for me to worry about those who ain't going to be open to receive it.
Agree.
We're almost out of time, Tiffany, but you mentioned something about you help people stay married. I noticed you have something called Marry Us.
MAERRY US TIFFANY. So MAERRY US TIFFANY is designed, it's spelled MAERRY. I can marry you and unite your love, but I can also keep you married with an E. And the concept is maintaining happiness, pleasantries, and satisfaction in your commitment to equip you with tools to do so you can sustain the things that you face and move about the change. I have dealt with quite a few couples who were literally like, I'm about to get a divorce, I'm over it. And word of mouth, hey, talk to Tiffany first. And they're still together. I have one couple, it's been 18 months since we started, and I'm so grateful because seeing their growth, seeing that like me nagging them, hey, are you breathing? Are you doing your exercises? Like it works. I'm writing my fourth book right now, Equations of Love, and the basis is in support of the tools that I process people through with MAERRY US TIFFANY. But it's absolutely one of the greatest things I've done, and just to see the outcome, I'm grateful. You know, it's one thing I can get you in 3 minutes as a Wordmatician, but like an hour with me is amazing. And to do things on a monthly basis, or if you need more, I'm completely transparent, I'm completely honest, and I will let you know when you need to do something else. But as long as your relationship is not tainted with abuse, that's not something that should be, continued in that same capacity. Like I can help you do anything if you want to.
That's nice. Now, one more thing too is, and we'll try to get all these links posted to, was it Toiletries for Families?
Yes, Toiletries for Families is my 501c3 organization. We provide hygiene items to impoverished families. We've served about 63,000 families since 2010, 28 states and 8 countries. Very proud of that. The Arts Advocate, we advocate the culmination and cultivation of creativity, and we provide therapeutic arts for those affected by grief and trauma.
Nice. That's really good. And we'll try to, what's your website where anybody want to get a hold of you for any of those things?
TiffanyScales.com.
Tiffany Scales.
Stay on the phone with us after we continue.
Thank you so much. Of course, we're gonna have to have you back on a different
Yay.
time.
Yeah, hopefully in person. You won't be scared next time. How about that?
I'm still human. I still have my good intentions, and I want it to go well. But thank you all for your openness, your transparency, and putting this together. I'm grateful.
No doubt. Stay with us. Don't hang up.
Check our website. You see upcoming events. And you want to get in on the conversation, let us know. You could always just call in and be a caller and talk to the people.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool.
Always like we tell everybody, we talk about everything, and we want you to be able to tell us anything you want. Just like I said, you want to get it off your chest, come in and tell us. If nobody's listening, hey, we got some people that watch us. Maybe they'll hear what you got to say.
Okay. Thank y'all.
So stay with us here after we go. But folks, this is about all we have time for. Great conversation. We'll be bringing her back again.
Absolutely.
Come back to our show. I hope y'all got a lot out of this, and you're not going to be able to see this live. You won't be able to call in on that day, but if you are watching it as it premieres, you'll be able to chat with us because we will be on there. Any questions that you have for her, we'll make sure that she passes them on. Tiffany, if you can,
I'll answer.
And if you can't be on live when they go and somebody answers, type right along with them. Let them know that you're there listening.
Okay.
Anything else, guys?
No,
I love this.
I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. I've just been sitting here in all the conversation. So thank you so much, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I do got some more to say.
Go ahead.
You know you beat me. Tiffany, I want to thank you personally for not only all your wisdom, but thank you for not making Jonathan cry. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. So you have a good one. We love you dearly.
Thank you, guys.
With that said, hey, I'm Brother Los.
I'm brother.
Got it, man.
I'm brother Jam.
Brother Ron.
Black Cannon back on cam. Thank y'all for watching. Remember, like, share, subscribe. We're out. We're Daily Smoke.
Peace.
Sweet time.
Yeah.